It all started with a sparkle, an image of Meghan Markle, framed in luxury, poise, and promise. She sat across from a little-known British podcaster in a new audio show that promised raw authenticity, personal growth, and entrepreneurial insight. But what unfolded wasn't the gripping revelation or inspiring story listeners were expecting. Instead, it became a cautionary tale in real time. A case study in how not to curate a brand when your truth keeps shape-shifting depending on the day, the audience, or the crisis control PR memo. Meghan didn't enter that podcast studio as a scrappy entrepreneur or misunderstood innovator. She came in with the weight of a royal title, the power of global celebrity, and a 5-year Netflix deal dangling behind her like an invisible crown. And yet, she positioned herself as someone who had to fight tooth and nail to be seen. The problem? No one was buying it. Not the listeners. Not the critics. And certainly not the former hospital officials who are now contradicting the stories she told with calm, unflinching precision. Take, for instance, the now infamous twerking in the hospital story. Meghan painted it as a quirky, behind-the-scenes moment meant to show her playful side. It was supposed to humanize her, make her feel relatable, fun, unfiltered. But there was just one glaring problem. According to the timeline given in Prince Harry's own memoir, they were at that hospital during a highly restricted period. Visitors were being turned away, masks were required, and strict protocols were in place due to COVID. And yet, their Meghan was in that video. No mask, full glam, dancing like it was Coachella in a sterile hospital hallway. At first glance, it's just a curious discrepancy. But when paired with the rest of Meghan's narrative gymnastics, it morphs into something more disturbing. Because it's not just one moment. It's a pattern. A web of contradictions stitched together with branding buzzwords and media polish. One day she's talking about her grandfather's antique shop being the core of her work ethic. The next she's claiming she spent every day for 10 years after school on the set of Married with Children. Which is it? Because unless her grandfather owned a boutique on a Hollywood soundstage, someone's math isn't adding up. The entire podcast appearance was a soft-focus version of damage control. Meghan didn't come to be challenged. She came to control the narrative. The host, Emma, seemed well aware of her role, to smile, nod, and let the Duchess speak uninterrupted. There were no difficult questions. No pushback. No follow-up when timelines didn't make sense or when definitions were mangled. Take Meghan's response to a question about imposter syndrome. Rather than acknowledging the very real feeling of doubt many high achievers face, she brushed it off, almost offended. She didn't relate, she insisted. As if imposter syndrome were a weakness, not a window into vulnerability. And with that, another opportunity to connect with millions of women disappeared under the weight of ego. And ego is precisely where this story finds its sharpest edge. Because Meghan doesn't just want to be admired, she wants to be seen as someone who built something. She talks about her brand, her products, her mighty team as if she's bootstrapping a company from her garage. But reality tells a different story. By the time her latest project launched, multiple team members had already left. This wasn't lean. It was unraveling. And that Spotify deal? A complete bust. Executives walked away. Producers reportedly couldn't stand working with her. One called the experience a nightmare. That's not royal gossip, that's corporate America waving a red flag. Meghan framed her new product, a jar of jam, as a manifestation of her values. Organic. Wholesome. Intentional. But when inventory ran dry almost instantly, she didn't announce a restock or apologize for limited supply. She called it a good problem to have. The reality? Most customers see it as incompetence. Real entrepreneurs scramble to meet demand. Meghan, apparently, shrugs and moves on. Then there was the moment she declared she wasn't afraid of failure. Failure isn't real. It's just learning, she said. Easy to say when you've got a financial parachute stitched with royal gold. Easy to say when failure doesn't mean eviction or bankruptcy. Meghan hasn't bet everything on her ventures. She's dipped her toes in luxury waters, knowing that even if the business sinks, she'll float. But perhaps the most damning moment came when she tried to assert that her latest Instagram account was created in January 2024. The problem? Anyone with internet access can see it was created in 2022. It's such a small, petty lie, but that's exactly what makes it dangerous. If she's willing to lie about something as trivial as a profile date, What else is being distorted behind the curtain of authenticity? What we're witnessing isn't just a bad PR campaign. It's the public dissection of a personal brand that refuses to be honest about its foundation. Meghan wants to be seen as self-made. But the truth is, none of it, exists without her proximity to the royal family. The deals, the attention, the headlines, the clout. It all traces back to the moment she became the Duchess of Sussex. And instead of embracing that, she spent years pretending it's irrelevant. And this is where the brand fractures. Because consumers aren't stupid. They don't need curated podcast interviews or soft lighting to see through the illusion. They want truth. And what Meghan offers is a rotating cast of personas. One day she's a mom fighting media exploitation. The next she's marketing jam with royal undertones. One week she's a modern Martha Stewart, the next a misunderstood humanitarian. It's exhausting and confusing. Even her closest collaborators have started backing away. Former staff, producers, executives, friends. There's a trail of silence and NDA-tight exits that speaks volumes. When asked what she'd change about her public image, Meghan's answer was simple: I just want people to tell the truth. But maybe, just maybe, the truth has been there all along. And it's not flattering. The Meghan Markle we were promised, a fierce voice for change, an advocate for the unheard, a disruptor of norms, has slowly given way to a version more concerned with optics than impact. There's no shame in using privilege to build something meaningful. But there is something hollow about denying that privilege while using it as your only leverage. This podcast was supposed to be a reinvention, a fresh chapter, a moment of vulnerability. But instead, it exposed the very thing Meghan's brand can't afford to admit, that she's not misunderstood. She's just not consistent. That she's not being silenced. She's just not saying anything new. That she's not an underdog. She's a duchess with a dynasty at her feet, and a public slowly waking up to the performance. So as hospital officials begin to challenge the truth of her stories, as timelines fall apart, and as the jam jars gather dust in digital carts, we're left with one unavoidable question. When will Meghan finally stop spinning and start telling the truth? If you've followed Meghan's journey, what's your take on this latest controversy? Do you think the public is being too hard on her, or is it time for real accountability? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more deep dives into the stories that shape the spotlight.